and this is known as the South Pole. And then you have 23.5 degree Tropic of Cancer, and then 23.5 degrees somewhere here Tropic of Capricorn. Cancer and Capricorn. And in Hindi we call it as Karakrikan Mak. Makar Sankranti, yes, because the sun moves from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. So that is why it is known as Makar. Okay, Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn. Now, there are countries in the northern region and there are countries in the southern region. So you have many countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland. These are known as Scandinavian countries. Scandinavian countries. What countries? Say louder. Scandinavian countries. All of you tell.
Scandinavian countries.
Which are the Scandinavian countries? Norway, Sweden and Finland. Tell all of you.
Norway, Sweden and Finland.
Scandinavian countries. Beautiful countries. Very cold. They are cold countries. Then you have Canada. Canada is also a very cold country. You have Iceland, somewhere here I think. Iceland, Greenland. Greenland I suppose should be here. Or I don't know. Greenland and Iceland, remember these two countries are in the polar region. Find out which country is in which pole. Okay, I suppose Greenland is in the northern pole. Okay, and Iceland is in the southern pole. Then you have Alaska and Canada. Okay, these are in the southern hemisphere. These are in the northern hemisphere. So all these countries, they are known as Nordic countries. What countries? Nordic countries. And what is the meaning of Nord? N-O-R-D. Nord is a French word which means north. Nord is the French version or French word for north in English. Nord. Okay. So all these countries are Nordic countries. Okay. So we are going to study a legend of one of these countries. But the poem doesn't say as to which particular countries. It's just given as a legend of Northland. But which country in the Northland? Is it Norway, or is it Denmark, or is it Sweden, or is it Finland? We don't know. But one of the northern countries. One of the Nordic countries. The legend of Northland. We are going to read a legend. This poem is in the form of a ballad. What is a ballad? A ballad is a poem, a story written in the form of a poem. A ballad is a story written in the form of a poem. Story in the form of a poem. That is known as a ballad. And what we are going to read and discuss now is a ballad. Remember that. What we are going to read and discuss now is a ballad. Okay. So much for the background information of the poem. Now I am coming to the poem. To understand this poem, you need to have some biblical knowledge. What's the Bible? How many of you know what the Bible is? Holy book of Muslims, right? It's good. Bible is the holy book of Muslims. Now, if you read the Bible, there are two parts in the Bible. One is the Old Testament and one is the New Testament. What is the Old Testament? Before the birth of Christ, everything that happened before the birth of Christ is written in the Old Testament. God created the world and many prophets came into the world. They taught many good things. Okay, there were many battles. Many kings died. Okay, some good sayings are there, proverbs are there. These things are found in the Old Testament before the birth of Christ. BC, before Christ. And after the birth of Christ, there are many books written and they are known as the New Testament. And New Testament is the year of AD. What do you mean by AD? Anno Domini. Anno Domini. Domini means Christ. Anno Domini. After the birth of Christ. So two parts in the Bible. We are supposed to know this better now. Because the poem is related to this. You see, when Jesus lived on this earth, he lived for 33 years. At the age of 30, he became a sadhu. In the sense, he became a saint, going around preaching the good news, preaching the message of God, and he had 12 disciples. How many disciples? 12 disciples. What do you mean by disciples? Disciples? Followers. Sishya. Guru, Sishya. है कि नहीं? गुरु का चेला होते हैं, तो चेला को हम कहते हैं disciples. He had 12 disciples. How many?
12.
Out of the 12, one hanged himself, committed suicide. Why? He betrayed Jesus. Okay, he entrusted Jesus to the high priest, and the high priest caught him, beat him, and they hanged him or nailed him to a cross. So Jesus was crucified. You can see that in the cross. So this Judas, his name was Judas. What was his name? Judas. He went and betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. They said, we'll give you 30 pieces of silver, show me who Jesus is. So he said, okay, give me. Took the money and went to kiss Jesus. And the Pharisees, the high priest, they bound Jesus and they took him, okay, to the court, and they stripped him. They tied him to a pillar and they beat him with the iron rods and thorns. And they made a plate of thorns, a crown of thorns, put it on his head. And he was taken to a mountain called Calvary, and on that Calvary they made a big cross. They made him carry the cross, and finally he was nailed to the cross. So Jesus died for all the people who had committed sins. So those who follow Jesus are Christians, and those who followed Jesus when he was alive, they were known as the disciples. 12 disciples, 12 minus 1. Okay. Now, among these 12 disciples, there were some old disciples as well. So one of the old disciples was Peter. You might have heard this name Peter. Many Christians, they have this name Peter. There are schools, St. Peter's School. Many schools all over there. So, he was one of the oldest disciples. One of the oldest disciples of Jesus. He was a fisherman. What was he? Fisherman. So, most of the disciples, they caught fish for a living. Because Israel was a country where there was sea. And the place where Jesus was born and Jesus was doing his ministry was a place very close to the sea, Galilee. Okay? So, many men caught fish for a living, and Peter was one of them. He was a fisherman. He was a fisherman. So, after the death of Jesus, the disciples also went to different parts of the world. And one of the disciples came here, his name was St. Thomas. He landed up in Kerala and Christianity spread in India. And St. Peter, he went to Rome, capital of Italy, and he became a big teacher of the church. Many followers, they became Christians, followers of Peter. They understood what he said and they became Christians. So, Peter went round preaching. Went round preaching. Preaching का मतलब क्या? प्रवचन देना. जैसे हमारे इंडिया में स्वामी जी लोग, बहुत सारे साधु हैं, स्वामी जी हैं, बहुत सारे स्वामी जी, तो वो लोग प्रवचन देते हैं, है कि नहीं? कथा, भजन, these things. So Peter was also going around giving lot of preaching, doing lot of preaching, sermons. In Christianity we call them as sermons. Sermon means preaching the word of God. So one day, Saint Peter, he went round many villages, many places, preached the word of God, and it was evening. Saint Peter felt very tired. Felt very tired. What happened? Felt hungry. When you work all day long, you feel hungry? So we have breakfast, we have lunch and dinner. So St. Peter felt very hungry and he was walking through a village, remote village, no electricity, no communication, only trees, okay? So when he was walking through that forest area, he felt very, very hungry and he was looking as to whether there would be any house or not. He was looking for a house. Looking for a house. Fortunately, he saw some light burning in a small cottage. Small cottage. Beautiful cottage. Many trees around. Okay. Right. So, he went near that house, thinking that he would get some food. And when he went and knocked at the door, tap, 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 an old woman came. Not very old, in her 50s, like me. And she asked Peter, "What do you want?" And he said, "Do you have food? I'm very, very hungry." And this woman was making some cakes. Or maybe some, what to say, pancake like dosa. She was making that. So she made the dough. Dough means, what do you call that? The flour, okay, mixed with water, salt, and you make it into a big ball. That is known as a dough. आटा को हम लोग क्या कहते हैं? सानते हैं, रोटी बनाने से पहले. So she was making the dough and took out small pieces, lumps from the dough, flattened them, and she was putting it into fire. And she was making some cakes, let's put it that. St. Peter knew, because he was a saint, he knew that this old woman was making cakes, and he said, "You see, my dear, I'm very hungry, and since you are making some cakes, bring just one piece, one cake. I'd like to have it, because I feel very hungry." So she went inside, where the baking place was. There was an oven, okay? So she was making the cakes. She took a small piece of dough and made a little cake, okay? Flattened it out, and she put it in. When she took it out, small cake came out. She said, "No, I won't get this. It's very big. I must make a smaller one." Then again, she took a little bit of dough And the quantity was lesser this time. Second cake she baked. This I'll give it. Before putting it into the fire, before putting the cake into the fire, she said, once I get this baked, I'll give it. Then when it was baked, she started, looked at it. She's also big. Just make a smaller cake. So she kept it on the shelf for herself. Then 2 cakes gone. Again, she took some dough. And then she made another cake. Smaller one. And close that door. What are you doing? And you know what happened? Again the cake came out. Not satisfied. What if it was smaller than this? It was smaller than this. So it's a big one. So St. Peter was standing outside, saw what was going on. He didn't go inside the house, but he's a saint, he's a holy man, and he knew what was going inside. Father out. Ma'am, come out. Wait, I'll just bring the cake for you. Stop. I don't need your cake now. Because you don't have the heart to feed a hungry. The heart that matters. Okay, before giving anything to anybody, you must have the heart to give that person. Heart matters the most. You're giving, but within your heart you don't feel like giving. You have some hatred, some dislike, some dissatisfaction. Never good. God will not accept that. So St. Peter said, you're a selfish woman. What kind of a woman? Selfish. Can't feed a hungry man with one small cake. After all, you have so many cakes, you bake so many for yourself. Can't you kind of feed a hungry man? Don't you have the heart? Selfish. And he gave her a punishment. You will be turned into a bird or a woodpecker. Woodpecker? Have you seen a woodpecker?
Yes, sir.
What do you call a woodpecker in English? I mean in Hindi? Anybody knows? It bores the tree, you know. Tap, 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 tap. You know the name? Hindi name? You don't know. Hindi is your mother tongue? I don't know the name. Find out the name. Tomorrow I'll ask you. Find out the Hindi word for woodcutter. Not woodcutter, I'm sorry, woodpecker. Woodpecker. So St. Peter said, you will be turned into a woodpecker. Why? The woodpecker goes on, what to say, boring, boring and boring the tree for worms throughout the day. It goes on boring, boring, boring the tree to see if there are any small worms or insects so that it can feed itself. It has to struggle, it has to struggle for its food throughout the day. And it's not easy for the woodpecker to bore every tree. It takes time. Finally you get some worms or insects. That was the punishment. And so, even today when children walk through the forest, they listen. When they listen to the sound of the woodpecker, they think that old woman is still, what to say, boring the tree or pecking the tree for her food. But the poet says, this is not true. The poem is not a true incident, but there is a message in it. Yes or no? It's just an imagination, a legend, a story, a ballad. But some message is there. When you give something to somebody, give it with your whole heart, without any reservation. Even when you're making some offering to God, give it with your full heart, whole heart. Because God says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul and all your strength. 100%. भगवान को 100% नहीं दोगे, किसको दोगे? Yes? And Service to man is service to God. So selfishness is a vice. Selfishness is a vice. What is the meaning of vice? Bad quality. Anger is a vice. Greed is a vice. Hopelessness is a vice. Laziness is a vice. All bad qualities. Jealousy is a vice. Ego is a vice. All bad qualities are known by the name vices. And helping others, being generous to others, being happy, they are virtues. Being patient, virtue. Okay? So, this poem goes to tell us the fact that selfishness is a vice and we should get rid of that at all costs and replace the vice of selfishness with the virtue of generosity. The generosity. That's why in the Bible Jesus says, if somebody asks you to walk for 1 kilometer, go 2 kilometers, walk 2 kilometers. If somebody is asking for your cloth, give the outer coat as well as the inner vest that you are wearing. If somebody beats you on the right cheek, show your left cheek to him as well. Kindness, humanness, generosity, these are virtues, and the poet is asking us to develop these virtues or put these virtues in ourselves. So look at the book. Let's start the book. Okay. Where is that? The legend of page number 65. A legend of Northland. Away, away in the Northland where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Away, away in the Northland where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Away, away in Northland, far, far away in Northland where the nights are few, hours of the day are few. You see, if you go to these countries, the Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland, these 3 countries especially, they have 6 months of long winter and 6 months of long summer. So for 6 months, no sun is seen. Cannot see the sun. Continuous nights, 24 hours. And for the other 6 months, only the sunlight and no nights. That is how people get used to. But that is the life that they live in. So during winters, when children go to schools, especially in Greenland and Iceland and all that, these countries, first they go into a room where ultraviolet rays are sprayed on them. There are machines and they get exposed to ultraviolet rays before entering the classroom. Because sunlight is rare and sunlight is required for the health of the body. It keeps your skin glowing, shining, vitamin D. And if you don't get sunlight, then your skin becomes dry. Okay? You develop cracks on your cheek. Alright? Then you feel dull. So, in these countries, the first thing that is done is the children are exposed to ultraviolet rays. 6 months. So that is what the poet says here, where the hours of the day are few, nights are long and days are short. And the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Nights are so long, 24 hours. So how can you sleep for 24 hours? Cannot. So because of the long winters, the long wintry nights, people are not able to sleep. You have a pencil? Write down this point. People cannot sleep continuously. People cannot sleep continuously because of the long wintry nights. Because of the long wintry nights. Wintry nights, W-I-N-T-R-Y, wintry Nights, Nights. Okay, Northland underline. Countries of the North Pole. Okay, look at the second stanza. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bears cubs in their funny furry clothes. Look at this, where they harness the swift reindeer. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. You know that song, right? So, on television you might have seen the Santa Claus sitting, okay, in a big cart, and the cart is being pulled by reindeer. What are they pulled by? Reindeer. This is known as caribou. So you go to Finland, go to Norway, you'll find these sledges. You call them as sledges. It's a small cart which is being pulled, or which is usually pulled by the reindeer on the snow. It's known as sledges. And Santa comes up that, yes? It's a story. So, where the reindeer is harnessed. So the people who live here, they drink the milk of reindeer. It gives milk. Because cows are rare in those countries. Okay? Of course, in Denmark you have a lot of cows, but when you go to the topmost, I think Norway and all, you don't find many cows there. But you find reindeer. And they drink the milk, sometimes they eat the meat as well. So, where they harness the swift reindeer, harnessing, okay, attaching them to a sledge and then driving them, harnessing them, underline control, harness means control. The reindeer is controlled by the people. The reindeer is controlled by the people of Northland. The reindeer is controlled by the people of Northland. Okay, let's come to the third stanza. They tell them a curious story. And the children look like bears cubs in their funny furry clothes. So now it's winter here in India, the northern part of India. You go to south, you don't feel this much of cold. So we have started wearing winter clothes, jackets and sweaters and all that, pullovers, cardigans, alright, hoodies, all winter clothes. So if you go to this northern country of Norway, or these northern countries, Nordic country, you will see people not with clothes like this, but heavy warm clothes. Okay, they are made of animal fur, long overcoats. Okay, and they cover their heads with fur, skins of animals. That keeps them warm. Listen. So, children are also kind of, what to say, kept in these warm clothes. But they are developed countries. So, they have all kind of facilities to face the harsh winter. They have special snow vehicles. Every house has that. And their house is centrally what you call heated. Beds are heated. Okay? Everything is heated. They take warm food, fresh food. Right. So, the children are also dressed heavily with warm clothes that they look like the bear cub. भालू की तरह देखते हैं बच्चे. भालू का ऊपर में बहुत सारा फर होता है, ऐसा ना? अब भालू का बच्चा को भी देखे हो, full of fur, and the small children, okay, they look like bear cubs with all the warm clothes on their body. Right now, children look like bear cubs because of heavy warm clothes. Children look like bear cubs because of heavy warm clothes. Right. The last stanza. In their furry clothes. They tell them a curious story I don't believe it is true, and yet you will learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. So these children are told a legend, they are told a story. Not a true story, but the poet says, and yet you may learn a lesson. You learn a lesson from this. Have you not learned a lesson from this poem? Don't be selfish, be human, be kind. So that is the lesson that he's talking about. It's not a true story, but it has a message. So I'll tell you that story. That is the meaning of that stanza. Okay? So with this we wind up. I didn't get time to discuss the questions. Tomorrow I'll finish this poem and then